Single dad's search for a babysitter unveils an incredible secret, CEO's daughter revealed. Jake's heart raced as he glanced at the stack of bills on his kitchen table. The phone call had come through just as he was tightening a bolt on a customer's car, unlocking the potential for a much-needed cash influx. But now, with his babysitter flaking out last minute, his dreams of finally catching up on those overdue payments felt fragile, like glass ready to shatter. The garage, usually his refuge filled with the comforting smell of oil and metal, now seemed to close in on him, a reminder of his responsibilities pressing down harder than ever. He couldn't afford to lose this job, but the thought of leaving little Max with a stranger tugged at his gut. Panic twisted his insides, an unwelcoming feeling creeping in. After much hesitation, Jake turned to an online post, his fingers trembling as he clicked on an ad for a temporary babysitter. As he scrolled, a face brightened the screen: Mia, a college student who seemed ordinary yet oddly charming. Surely, she'd understand. When Mia walked through the door that evening, her youthful energy lit up the shadows of the dim living room. Max eyed her curiously, and Jake caught a glimpse of the bond forming without word. Their initial conversations flowed so easily, like old friends reuniting. The first time he saw Mia smile over a shared parenting story about the chaos of diaper changes, something warmed in his chest. He found comfort in their connection, as if he were confiding in an unexpected ally through the struggles of life. As the weeks rolled by, those evenings spilled into late-night phone chats. Jake shared tales of grease-stained hands, the weight of responsibility lifting slightly as he fed off her laughter. Mia, in turn, spoke of her dreams and the battles she faced in her own family. They bonded over aspirations squeezed in the cracks of everyday life, like sipping coffee on a cold morning before dawn broke. Then, one soul-crushing day, Jake stumbled upon a name during a casual chat: Mia's father, looming large over local news. The CEO of a tech giant notorious for ruthless labor practices. His breath hitched, anger surged through him like wildfire. How could she, so genuine, come from such a legacy of privilege and exploitation? He felt betrayed, like a toy ripped from a child's grasp. An emotional confrontation loomed as Jake faced Mia's father. The opulence of the corporate office screamed in stark contrast to his life. "You walk around in your castle while the rest of us labor in mud," he shouted, fury driving his words. Mia stood like a silent witness, caught between two worlds that seemed irreconcilable. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The weighty silence after Jake's outburst filled the room, their shared history suddenly a fragile thread. Humanity hung in the balance, with Mia's face a blend of confusion and determination. As Jake gazed into her pleading eyes, he realized understanding was essential. Can a bond forged in struggle overcome the chasm of privilege? Their worlds had collided, and here they stood at a crossroads, hearts heavy and futures uncertain. Would they cling together through adversity, or would the weight of their differences pull them apart? The silence stretched, an echo of unspoken emotions. Jake's heart still raced, but he felt more dread than anger now. The rage that had fueled his outburst transformed into a tight knot in his stomach. Mia's father stood, unflinching and cold, while his daughter floundered between her loyalty to him and her connection to Jake. "Mia," Jake started, his voice softer, but still laced with tension. "I didn't mean to attack you. I can't wrap my head around what your family represents." Mia took a deep breath, her expression earnest. "Jake, please try to understand. The things my father does, they don't represent me. I didn't choose this life. I'm just trying to find my own way here, like you." Her voice quivered but held a steady resolve, her words hit him with the force of a freight train. He had known her as a bright spot in his otherwise dark days. Seeing the vulnerability in her eyes now made the anger flicker like a candle in the wind. Could he really dismiss her based on her lineage? The back-and-forth struggle played out in his head, not easy decisions like changing oil or fixing fenders. This was about hearts, dreams, and sacrifices. Finding your way is hard, I get that, Jake replied, anger giving way to compassion. But how can we talk about building something real between us when your father continues to hurt people like my neighbors and friends? Mia's hands balled into fists at her sides, fighting back against the legacy she felt unjustly burdened with. Then help me understand, Jake. Help me see the world you live in, the people who are affected. I want to change things, but I can't do it alone. He hesitated, pondering her offer. Could he really let her in, after all that had happened? But as he stared into her earnest eyes, he saw something different, not a CEO's daughter, but someone yearning for change. A partner in struggle. Perhaps, the more they talked, the more they unearthed pieces of each other's lives. Mia asked about Max's favorite cartoons, and Jake shared laughter over the boy's obsession with superheroes. For a moment, it felt as if the world outside faded away, and they were simply two people navigating their way through life's uncertainties, but then reality crashed back in. The unfinished conversation with Mia's father loomed like a cloud above them. It wasn't he done, that thread of unresolved tension still hung heavily in the air. As they wrapped things up for the night, Jake's mind raced. He could feel an unsteady connection form between him and Mia, but could it withstand the pressures from the outside? He hadn't just been on the verge of losing a job, he was also standing on the precipice of something deeper, something meaningful. Let us confront this together, Jake finally said, fidgeting with the keys in his pocket. Let us put our cards on the table. I need you to understand what this battle really is. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a way forward. Mia nodded, a glimmer of hope in her expression. But just as Jake turned to walk away, his phone buzzed startlingly loud from the countertop. A text from one of his neighbors popped up, "See you at the meeting tomorrow." This job cuts won't stand. Jake's heart sank. The fear of losing everything settled back in, gnawing at him. He looked back at Mia. What he had intended to ask her paused on his lips. "Tomorrow's just as important as tonight," he said, a new urgency threading his voice. "You have a choice, Mia. Will you stand with me?" In that instant, Jake understood their struggles were just beginning, and the choices they made next could impact everything. Would they be able to confront the truth together, or would the burdens of their worlds pull them apart once again? Jake's heart raced as he stepped out of Mia's house. The night air felt sharp against his skin, a stark contrast to the warmth he had just shared with her. He wrapped his arms around himself, trying to ward off the chill that wasn't just the night's cold but the worry gnawing at his insides. Tomorrow loomed over him like a storm cloud threatening to burst. As he walked home, the familiar neighborhood dimly lit by street lamps that flickered like wayward thoughts in his mind. Each step echoed with the weight of his worries about his job, about Mia, and about the confrontation that awaited. With every street he passed, he saw shadows of people that had been affected by decisions made long before he had a say. Max's room was dark when Jake entered, the glow of a nightlight casting comforting patterns on the walls. Jake tiptoed in, feeling both a father's love and a swell of guilt. Max's quiet breathing filled the space, a reminder of all things good in his life. What if he couldn't provide for him? The idea pressed heavily on Jake's chest. He wanted to keep Max safe, to shield him from the tumult outside their door, but reality was hard and unyielding. As he sat in the old rocking chair, he couldn't shake the image of Mia from his mind. Her determination, her need to change things had sparked a flicker of hope in him. Could they really be allies? Could love grow amid their chaotic worlds? Slowly, exhaustion overtook him, and he found himself nodding off, the chair creaking softly in the stillness. Morning arrived too quickly, shattering his dreams with beams of sunlight splashing against his face. Jake rubbed his eyes, shaking off the weight of the night. The tension bubbled back up in his stomach as he mentally prepared for the community meeting to discuss the impending job cuts. Dressed in a plain shirt and jeans, he grabbed his keys and cast one last glance at Max, still sleeping peacefully. Unbeknownst to him, he would be stepping into a battlefield, and Jake prayed it wouldn't tear him further apart from those he loved. The community center buzzed with energy when he arrived, voices overlapping like a dissonant choir. Faces grim, but determined. These were his neighbors, people he had grown close to through shared struggles. Their anger, concern, and solidarity washed over him in waves. Mia, he murmured to himself, quickly scanning the crowd for her familiar presence. She walked in just as he finished scanning. Their eyes locked, and she offered a shy smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Anxiety clouded them, instead fears mingling with the hope they had fostered the night before. "Thanks for coming," she said, stepping closer. "I want to help in any way I can." Jake nodded, his breath hitching slightly. "I appreciate that. It's about to get real messy. Are you sure you want to be involved in all this?" "I'm not backing down now," she said fiercely. "I'll face my father too, if that's what it takes. I want to understand why this is important to you, to us." Just then, the community leader called the meeting to order, the murmur settling into tense silence. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. Minutes felt like hours as people spoke passionately about their fears, and when it was his turn, Jake felt the weight of everyone's eyes upon him. "Listen," he began, his voice wavering at first, "this job isn't just a paycheck. It's about families, futures, it's about hope." But as he looked around, he noticed Mia's father entering the room, his presence casting a long shadow. The air thickened with tension, and Jake could feel every heart in the room quicken. In that moment, he understood, everything was about to change. Would he find the strength within this unsteady alliance? Would Mia's loyalty to him outweigh her father's iron grip on the community? As the words left Jake's mouth, he locked eyes with Mia, silently asking, "Are you ready for this?" The answer hung in the air, heavy and precarious. Would their budding connection survive the storm? Jake's words hung in the air, thickening with unspoken tension. He could barely breathe as Mia's father, Roger, settled in his chair at the back, fixing his piercing gaze on the podium. The air quivered with an impending storm, a backlash of emotions swirling just beneath the surface. The crowd murmured, the tension palpable. Jake's mind raced, thoughts colliding chaotically. Would Roger disrupt everything? His very presence felt like a challenge, a barrier between Jake and the support he desperately needed from his neighbors. Mia's hand brushed against his, grounding him for a moment. "Just breathe," she whispered, her voice low but firm. It was just what he needed to hear, a reminder of their alliance, however fragile it may seem. As speakers continued to pour their hearts out, Jake listened, nodding, each story resonating deep within him. Families torn apart, plans shattered, futures put on hold. It was real. It mattered. And yet, every word that echoed off the walls made him acutely aware of the clock ticking down. They were running out of time. "Jake," someone called, pulling him from his thoughts. It was Emily, a single mom with wide, anxious eyes. "What do you think we should do?" His heart gave a lurch. The entire room turned to him, waiting. He cleared his throat, feeling that lead weight of responsibility settle deeper. "We need to stand united," he began, his voice steadier now. "We have to show them we're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. We're people. This isn't just about jobs, it's about our lives." A few nods rippled through the crowd. Encouraged, he pressed on, "What happens tomorrow affects our children, our community, our hopes. We can't let fear silence us." Suddenly, Roger stood up, his steely presence commanding attention. The atmosphere shifted like a cold wind sweeping through. "Jake," he said, a mocking lilt to his voice, "do you honestly believe yelling will change anything? People like us don't change their minds for simple protests." Jake's heart sank. The defiance he had felt moments before began to waver. But then the sight of Mia, her fiery spirit ignited, sparked something in him. "We're asking for honesty and fairness, not just business as usual." Mia shouted out, surprising everyone, including her father. Her voice cut through the tension like a sharp knife. People deserve to know what is happening. We deserve a chance to fight. Jake couldn't help but smile, her courage reigniting that flicker of hope. The room seemed to respond, energy building. People began to stand, fists raised, murmurs swelling into applause. It felt like a wave of solidarity, and with every clap, Jake felt more certain. Roger's frown deepened as he surveyed the crowd. This is pointless. His voice dripped with disdain, but Jake could see the crack in his composure. Perhaps he wasn't as assured as he pretended. We're not backing down, Jake said, stepping forward, fueled by a newfound determination. Not while we still have each other. Not while we have hope. Mia's eyes locked with his, and for a fleeting moment, everything else dimmed. Whatever the outcome, they were in this together, fighting against the very thing that threatened to keep them apart. As the meeting concluded, an air of uncertainty lingered. Connections deepened, and hearts beat in sync, but the path ahead remained daunting. Jake stepped outside, needing fresh air to clear the weight in his chest. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows. Mia followed, catching up to him, her expression a mix of relief and concern. What are we going to do next? She asked, glancing back at the center where voices still buzzed. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the shift within him. We need a plan. Something strategic that will make them listen, and I think I know just the place to start. Mia raised an eyebrow, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. Care to share? Jake smiled, the first genuine spark of hope igniting. Let us take this battle to them. And actually bring it home. But as he opened his mouth to reveal more, a loud commotion erupted from the center, drawing their attention back. The atmosphere shifted once again, a collective gasp from those who were still inside. What now? Mia asked, anxiety creeping back into her voice, and as Jake turned to face her, uncertainty mixed with anticipation, he couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight was only just beginning. What had they started, and at what cost? The loud commotion grew louder, rippling through the small crowd like a wave. Jake's heart raced as he glanced back toward the entrance of the center. It felt like the world had flipped upside down. The atmosphere crackled with a mix of fear and confusion. People were murmuring, pointing, a magnetic pull drew everyone closer to the unfolding drama. What is happening? Mia asked again, her voice shaking slightly. Jake could see the worry etched on her face, mirrored in the faces around them. He stepped forward, adrenaline coursing through him. Let us find out. He reached for Mia's hand, and they squeezed through the throng, weaving past anxious faces, their world morphing from a fight for solidarity to something chaotic and unknown. As they entered the room, the scene unfolded like a dark cloud shrouded in lightning. A woman stood atop the podium, her voice shuddering but strong. It was Sarah, one of the staunchest supporters of Jake's cause, tears streaming down her cheeks. They're shutting us down. The deal is finalized. We're all getting laid off tomorrow. A gasp spread through the crowd. Jake felt his skin crawl, anger bubbling beneath the surface. How could they be so careless? How could they do this without a second thought? Mia gripped his arm tightly, her knuckles turning white. This isn't just business, it's lives, she whispered hoarsely, heartbroken over the reality crunching down on them. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, striding forward with a certainty that cut through the haze. It was Roger. There was something different about him, an urgency and frustration that hadn't been there when he mocked Jake earlier. Listen. Roger raised his hands, trying to quiet the room. There's been a misunderstanding. The deal isn't finalized yet, but we need to prepare for a negotiation. Prepare? Jake shouted, voice booming in defiance. You've left us in the dark. We're not numbers, we're families with lives. The heat of their words clashed against Roger's stoic facade. He scanned the room, searching for a connection. Suddenly, he landed on Mia's face, surprise flickering in his eyes. It was as if he saw a ghost. Mia. Confusion reigned for a moment, then Roger's expression shifted. You should have been the one to hear this first. You're the future of this. Mia's voice rose, slicing through his patronizing tone. I'm not interested in your future if it silences the voices of the people I care about. Tension hung in the space, thick enough to cut, but something in Roger's eyes flashed regret. Anxiety. Before Jake could process what this meant, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room, drawing everyone's attention. A group of men in suits entered, faces hardened, clearly bearing news that could crush them. Jake's heart pounded. What now? He muttered, dread coiling around his stomach. The lead man stepped forward, folder in hand, looking every bit the bear. We're here to move forward with the layoffs. The decision has been made. Panic erupted like a wildfire. The crowd roared, voices overlapping in outrage. Jake felt a flurry of heat in his chest. The fight was intensifying, and he sensed every person around him felt it as well. This was no longer about standing up, it was about survival. Mia turned to him, her eyes wide with determination. What do we do, Jake? We can't just let them do this. He clenched his fists, the weight of the situation heavy but the fire of resolve pushing him. We fight. We fight for every life they're dismissing, he declared, every word bursting with conviction, but as Jake's words hung in the air, a nagging thought tugged at him, the revelation he could feel creeping closer. The cost of their fight was growing, but how far would they have to go? And most importantly, what secrets lay hidden beneath Roger's watchful eye? Jake felt the ground shift beneath them, a battle beginning to brew, a fight that would shake the very foundation of their community. What lay ahead felt uncertain, but the time for action was now. Would they be strong enough to unveil the truth, or would the weight of their decisions fracture everything they fought for? Chaos swirled around Jake and Mia as their fellow workers voiced their outrage, tears mingling with shouts. It felt like the very foundation of their lives was crumbling. The corporate suits didn't seem to grasp the depth of the devastation their announcement had unleashed. Each trembling shout was a cry for dignity in the face of an uncaring machine. Listen, everyone. Sarah's voice cut through the noise again, desperate and demanding. We can't just let them walk all over us. We need to stand united. Jake glanced at Mia. She was pulsating with a mix of fear and steely resolve. She's right, he urged. If we don't make them hear us now, when will we find the strength? The crowd, wildly shifting as tensions rose, turned to him. What do you suggest? One of his colleagues shouted, voice shaky but resonant with every heart in the room. Let us gather, create a petition, speak to the media. Make them see our humanity. Jake's heart beat faster, the urgency of the moment igniting a fire within him. They couldn't just allow their lives to be bargained and discarded. Roger's gaze pierced through the chaos. We can negotiate. I'll help you, but we have to be smart about this. Outrage flared again. Smart? You think we trust you? Someone shouted back. Mia stepped forward, challenging Roger's authority. You didn't give us a chance before. This isn't just another business deal, these are families, people's lives. You need to acknowledge that. The tension was a living thing, thrumming off Jake. His fists clenched as he took a small step toward Roger. You've played us against each other before. Why should we believe you now? Roger's mask cracked for a moment, revealing a flash of fraught vulnerability. Because if you don't focus on what we can negotiate, we're all going to lose. The truth is, I might have a way to turn this around. What do you mean? Mia asked, voice quiet but demanding that he hesitated, weighing his words. Chief financial officers don't like bad publicity. If we can rally enough support, show them this isn't just about numbers, it could change the game. We're on the precipice of something bigger than layoffs. Jake felt a surge of skepticism mixed with the slightest breath of hope. Yet behind those ideas hummed a deeper truth. Why suddenly the about-face? As the crowd quieted, intrigued murmurs rippling through them, he caught a glimpse of the uncertainty etched on Mia's face. Are we willing to take that risk? Without risk there's no reward, she replied firmly, steadiness pouring from her heart into words. We owe it to our families. The lead man in the suits shifted uncomfortably, checking his watch, a silent reminder of time slipping away. Fear sat heavy on every shoulder as they deliberated in volatile silence. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by a woman's voice from the back of the room. We can't afford to wait. What's the plan? United, we gather in the front lawn tomorrow morning, Jake boldly declared. Let them see our voices. Let them hear our stories. We can make a stand that echoes beyond these walls. Murmurs of agreement surged through the throng, embers of shared courage igniting. Jake's heart swelled with hope something that had felt dimmed was flickering alive once more, but just then, Roger stepped closer, his demeanor shifting to urgency. There's more at stake here than you know. If you push too hard, you might uncover something that no one here is prepared for. The words landed like lead, rippling across the crowd, uncertainty creeping back into their hearts. Jake felt that familiar tug of dread. What do you mean? He pressed, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes locked onto Roger. I can't discuss it here. But trust me when I say, this is about more than just layoffs. The stakes could be higher than you ever anticipated. Jake's gut twisted. A chill coursed through him as he realized the battle he was about to engage in could uncover secrets that would turn everything upside down. And he was running out of time to decide just how ready he was to face those secrets. Hunter or hunted, what would his next move be? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the electric tension in the air. The murmurs spread quickly through the crowd like a wildfire. Faces were painted with confusion and worry. Everyone could feel they were standing on a precipice, the ground crumbling beneath them, but they were also aflame with a powerful resolve. Mia turned to Jake, her eyes wide, a mix of fear and determination sparking between them. What if this is too much? She whispered. What if Roger is right? What if we unleash something we can't control? His heart raced. We can't turn back now. We owe it to ourselves and our families to try. We can't just roll over. The crowd began to chant Mia's name, rallying around her, igniting a fire deep inside her. What do we want? Someone shouted. Our voices. They repeated it back, louder, more fervently. Each repetition entwined them tighter as a unified force. We meet at dawn. We need banners, stories, everything. Jake called out, trying to lap up the energy swirling around them. Let them hear us, not just see us. Then, with a deep breath, Roger stepped back into the spotlight, his discomfort turning to a calculated caution. Listen, we cannot afford to be reckless. If my superiors catch wind of this chaos, it won't just impact you, but it could be devastating for all of us. Your families, your lives could face far worse consequences. A wave of anxious murmurs rose, sinking into dread-laden hearts. Jake felt a chill slide down his spine. What did he know that they didn't? The feeling of being in the dark turned his stomach. Roger took a step back, his hands up as if to calm the storm he brewed. We need strategy, not just outrage. Focus on what matters most, the leverage we can create. Tomorrow, I want you to come together, peacefully. Speak, gather support. Let us make them hear your demands. Mia glanced at Jake, eyebrows raised as she silently questioned Roger's intentions. Was he genuine? Did he really have their best interests at heart? Doubt crept into Jake's mind, but he pushed it aside. There was no room for hesitation now. All right, Jake said, raising his voice to cut through the tension. We'll do it your way, Roger. But know this, if we don't see change, we will come back for more than just words. The crowd nodded, a wave of determination washing over them again. This stand wasn't just a protest, it was a wake-up call. Slowly, the crowd began to disperse, but their newfound resolve crackled in the air. Jake felt the weight of what was ahead. Tomorrow would bring the dawn of confrontation or the dim light of defeat. As Jake and Mia walked together towards the exit, the building's fluorescent lights turned off one by one, leaving them in shadows thick with uncertainty. "Jake," Mia began, her voice softening, "do you ever worry we're stepping into something too big for us?" "Every second," he admitted, looking at her with his heart in his eyes. She was the symbol of hope for him, the light that guided him through the uncertainty. Before they could darken their thoughts with fears, a loud crash echoed through the building. They froze, hearts pounding. The sound was swiftly followed by muffled voices and hurried footsteps approaching, the aftermath of chaos. "Are you ready for the storm to hit?" Jake asked, tension building between them. The air felt thick with expectation. Mia swallowed hard, and replied, "We better be. It's not just about us anymore." But they both knew that preparations were only the beginning. What mysteries lay behind the corporate doors? And what consequences would they face for daring to demand change? From standing on the edge of something great, could they risk it all for a glimmer of truth? The night was ominous, the dawn threatened to change everything. The crash rang out again, louder this time, followed by the frenetic sounds of hurried footsteps. Jake's heart raced as he scanned the dim surroundings, feeling the palpable tension in the air. Was this the change they were seeking, or something darker, a swift response from powers that wanted silence? "Mia, we should," he began, but she stopped him abruptly. "Look," she said, pointing toward the exit where shadows flickered with lights moving too fast to be ordinary. "We need to see what's happening." With a quick nod, they both edged forward, stealthy like cats peeking around the corner. As they reached the entrance, Jake's breath caught in his throat. A group of suited men stormed in, faces hard and determined. "Where are they?" one of them barked, his voice slicing through the tension like a knife. Mia looked at Jake, fear reflected in her wide eyes. "Who are they looking for?" "I don't know, but we need to move," Jake whispered, his instincts kicking in. But before they could retreat, the men turned toward them, eyes narrowing. "You two, what are you doing here?" The authority in the sound made Jake cringe inwardly. "We were just," he stammered, but the man cut him off. "Out of the way. This is no concern of yours." The group surged forward, their intent grim and unwavering. With adrenaline pumping, Jake grabbed Mia's hand, and they dashed back down the corridor. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them, heavy footsteps and angry shouts that came closer with every heartbeat. They needed to find a place to hide, to think. "Jake, over here!" Mia yelled and pulled him into a maintenance room. They squeezed in just as the men rushed past, the door slamming shut behind them. They pressed against the wall, hearts pounding in unison. The room smelled like old paint and dust, an oppressive quiet settling around them. "Why are they so riled up?" Mia's voice was shaky, but there was a fire in her eyes. "What if they're really here to silence us?" That thought sent a chill through Jake. "We can't let that happen. This is about our future, Mia. We need to find out what's really going on." His mind raced, recalling Roger's warning. Could it be that the stakes were even higher than they thought? What was the true cost of raising their voices? As they remained silent in the thick darkness, the tension began to transform into something else, an unresolved anxiety that connected their hearts. "If we get out of here, we have to go back to the others, reinforce what we talked about," Jake whispered, his resolve solidifying. "We can't shrink away, this is bigger than us." Mia nodded, determination igniting in her gaze. "We might be risking everything, but if we're in this together, we have a chance. We can do something." Suddenly, the commotion outside escalated. It was a cacophony of shouting, the sound of a struggle. Fragments of conversations broke through the door, phrases like "urgent" and "they can't find out" darted into the room like arrows, sending shivers down their spines. Jake's mind raced. What if the secret Roger hinted at was about to spill out? Whatever was going on, it linked back to the very core of their fight: power, betrayal, and the truth. "Hold on," he said suddenly, stepping back to the door. "We need to hear more. We can't step away now." Mia grasped his arm, her voice low. "Are you sure? We don't know what they're capable of." But Jake's eyes shone with determination. "We need to know. We have to uncover what all this means for us, for everyone." As he slowly opened the door a crack, he didn't just feel the weight of their decision, he felt the thrilling edge of discovery. The storm was on the brink of bursting, and Jake knew that whatever lay beyond, they were on the verge of uncovering something monumental, but would they be ready to handle the truth, no matter how painful it might be? As they braced themselves for what lay outside, the question hung in the air like a fragile thread, waiting to be tugged. The crack in the door widened just enough to let Jake peek outside. His pulse quickened as he silently cursed the aching silence that somehow shrouded the chaos beyond. He focused on the muffled voices, straining to piece together the fragments of their words. "Too late. Execute the plan. Not what we expected," one man said. Jake exchanged a frantic glance with Mia. Her features were tense, a mixture of fear and curiosity grappling for dominance across her face. He could feel the urgency in the air, a sense that something monumental was unfolding, and they were somehow caught in the center of it. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered, barely above a breath. "It sounds bigger than just us. They've got something planned. We can't let them get away with it." Mia nodded, determination washing away some of her fear. "Whatever they're planning, we need to stop it. We have to warn the others." Taking a deep breath, Jake pushed the door open just a bit more. With every movement, the darkness inside the maintenance room felt heavier, as if it threatened to swallow them whole. Outside, the suited men were pacing, their anger palpable. One of them, taller and more imposing than the rest, slammed his fist against the wall. "We can't cover this up. If anyone finds out about the merger, we'll lose everything. We need to act now." Jake leaned closer, feeling his heart thump wildly against his rib cage. A merger? What kind of merger could lead these men to react with such intensity? "Oh my God," Mia said, her voice trembling. "What if it's connected to that protest we organized? What if they're planning something to discredit us? Maybe they're trying to silence anyone who threatens their plans," Jake replied, his mind racing with possibilities. The pieces of their mission were starting to align with a much larger game, and the stakes felt beyond anything he had imagined. Suddenly, the door to the corridor swung open, and Jake and Mia stilled, hearts frozen in their chests. A figure entered the dim room, a woman. She was young, maybe in her mid-20s, wearing a simple yet elegant outfit. Her expression was intense, scanning the room with surely just as much urgency as they felt. "What are you doing here?" she asked, eyes darting between them in surprise. Jake exchanged a glance with Mia and decided to take a leap. "We could ask you the same," he said, stepping out slightly from the shadows. "Who are you?" "I'm here to stop them," she replied, her voice low but fierce. "I know what they're planning, and it could ruin everything. You need to trust me." Mia shifted nervously beside Jake, and he could feel the weight of her concern. "What do you mean? What are they planning?" The woman took a steadying breath, her resolve shining through. "It's bigger than you think. I can help you, but we need to move fast. They're not going to wait for us to figure it out." Jake felt the urgency wash over him like a tidal wave. Could they truly be on the brink of uncovering something that could turn the tide of their struggle? He wanted to believe her, but a nagging part of him whispered caution. Mia's fingers tightened around Jake's arm. "If we get caught," she began. "Then we fight," he said, feeling the fire of defiance light inside him. "We cannot back down now. If there's a chance to make things right, I'd rather take that risk than time's up." The woman snapped. "We need to go now." As she turned to lead them down the corridor, Jake's heart raced. He could feel the gravity of the moment, the knowledge that their lives could change with every step. They were walking into the unknown, but sometimes, that's where the truth is found. what would they uncover? Would they find allies or foes waiting just around the corner? The questions swirled in Jake's mind as they plunged deeper into the shadows, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as they followed the woman down the dim corridor, tension coiling around them like a living thing. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline, the kind that made you hyper-aware of every sound, every breath. Mia walked closely beside him, her brow furrowed with concentration and fear. "Who are you?" Jake asked again, urgency lacing his voice. "What do you know?" "My name is Laura," the woman replied, glancing back with determined eyes. "I've been collecting evidence about the merger that Roger mentioned. They're planning to cut more jobs than just yours. This isn't about numbers, it's about power and control. People's lives are at stake." Jake swallowed hard, the weight of her words crashing over him like a wave. This fight was bigger than he could even comprehend. "Why are you helping us?" Mia asked, her voice steady yet edged with urgency. "Because I can't stand by and watch innocent people get hurt while corporate greed runs rampant. But we need to move quickly. The suits won't hesitate to silence anyone who gets in their way." As they turned a corner, Jake felt the air shift. The energy crackled like electricity, charging every moment with potential. They reached a door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." "Here," Laura said, swinging the door open. "This leads to a meeting room where they discuss the merger. It's our best chance to gather evidence and expose them." Mia squeezed Jake's hand tightly, a flash of uncertainty skimming across her face. "What if we get caught?" "We won't," Jake replied, his voice firm. "We have to trust each other. We can't let fear stop us now. We've come too far." He stepped into the room with Mia and Laura close behind. Inside, paper strewn across the table bore the harsh lines of cold financial strategies and layoff numbers that felt like daggers to Jake's heart. "Let's grab what we can and get out," he urged, grimacing as he took in the scope of the documents. He shuffled through, each word written like a stone landing heavily in his gut. Mia's gaze drifted over everything, a fusion of anger and sadness etched on her face. How can they treat people this way? This isn't just numbers, these are lives full of dreams. "They're so far removed from the reality we face," Jake said, anger coursing through his veins. He glanced at Laura, who was carefully scanning the room. "They need to be held accountable." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, sending a chill down Jake's spine. They froze, trapping the heavy air in the room with their racing hearts. "Quick, we need to hide," Laura whispered urgently. They ducked behind a couch in the corner just as the door swung open. A group of male suits entered, laughing casually about upcoming negotiations as if they were talking about the weather, dismissing the lives their decisions would ruin. "Can you believe these people?" one said, his laughter bubbling over. "They think they can actually make a difference with protests. It's adorable, really." Jake felt Mia tense beside him, her fingers digging into the upholstery as her breaths quickened. He felt the rage boiling inside him as the men snickered at the very thought of their struggles. "If only they knew how small they really are," another chimed in. "Time to make them understand." "What do they mean by that?" Mia whispered, her eyes wide. Jake met her gaze, determination hardening in his heart. "We have to gather that evidence and expose them. We can't let them get away with this. When they leave, we'll move fast," Laura said, her voice low and resolute. "We have to document everything." Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, but the suits finally exited, leaving the door ajar behind them. As the corridor fell silent, Jake glanced at Mia and Laura, who were both wide-eyed, hearts racing with the potential of what they had just heard. "Let's get to work," he said, urgency pushing him forward as adrenaline coursed through him. They quickly gathered the documents that exposed the harsh realities of the merger. Jake dropped files into Mia's bag, his heart pounding as they moved swiftly. They knew. They couldn't waste any time. Suddenly, something crashed outside. It echoed through the building and reverberated in Jake's chest. What now? He wondered, sensing the weight of oncoming chaos. It could be reinforcements for those guys, Laura said, her eyes darting with alarm sounding in her head. We need to get out. Now. Kicking it into high gear, they sprinted out of the room and along the corridor, dodging shadows and whispers of uncertainty wrapping around them. The exit loomed ahead like a beacon, but just as they reached it, more suited figures emerged, catching sight of them. Stop them. One shouted, eyes narrowing in recognition. Panic surged through Jake as they veered sharply, racing away from the danger. Adrenaline-fueled sprinting propelled them, fueled by survival instinct. Each step echoed with determination. They couldn't allow their fight to end here. As they rounded another corner, Jake caught a glimpse of Mia's eyes, filled with fierce conviction and hope. We're not done yet, right? She asked, almost as much to herself as to him. Not even close, he replied, pushing forward. We're going to take back what's ours. And in that moment, he knew they were no longer just fighting for themselves. They were standing against an empire of greed. For everyone whose lives were at stake. They burst through a door, plunging into the outside world. The sun bathed them in radiant light, but the threat simmered just behind them. Jake took a deep breath, heart racing, feeling the power of change in the air. This is where it begins, he said, glancing at Mia and Laura. Tomorrow, we rally. We'll show them our strength. With newfound resolve and urgency, they sprinted toward their shared goal, turning their fight into a unified voice, one that would reverberate against the walls of ignorance and push back against the tides of manipulation. They were going to stand for truth, come what may. As they fled, Jake felt the heat of anger fueling motivation. The day of reckoning was coming, and he could almost taste its promise. They were ready to confront the darkness, not just for themselves, but for the world in which they lived. And then, in the distance, a sense of calm washed over them. They were all willing to fight together, ready to share the truth, into the sunlight of a new day. Tomorrow, the community would stand together. Tomorrow, they'd change everything. Tomorrow would change their lives forever. But right now, a moment of unity before the storm, a breath, collectively held, a pause before the world turned anew. Jake felt alive. Let it begin. And before the sun set, he silently vowed they would not rest until every secret was unveiled. Tomorrow, a new chapter awaited them all. Tomorrow, they would ignite a revolution. Are you ready for what comes next? If you felt the excitement rise, make sure to subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the fire going. Your support is everything. Comment your reactions to this thrilling conclusion and what you think will happen next, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show you care. It means the world. Don't wait not even one more second.